Hey, Austinites, did you know that plastic bags and styrofoam cannot be recycled in your blue cart or dumpster? And they can damage recycling equipment, injure workers, and end up in landfills. Now, the good news is that there are easy ways to recycle these items correctly right here in Austin. And recycling the right way just means the material will be used again and won't end up in landfills. Visit austintexas.gov/recycling or download the Austin Recycle app to learn more and connect to your local recycling options. If you own a rental property in Austin, listen up. Being a landlord can feel like a second job, except the meetings are maintenance requests and they usually happen on Saturday morning. Put your rentals on autopilot with TurboTenant. TurboTenant helps you find and place a qualified tenant by handling the listings, showings, and screening. So all you have to do is review and approve the applicant, and you don't pay anything until a tenant is placed. Once your tenant is in place, TurboTenant can also handle rent collection, maintenance coordination, and the day-to-day management. Learn more at turbotenant.com/citycast.
Hey there, it's executive producer Eva Ruth here. At the end of today's episode, we've got a bonus interview sponsored by the Blanton Museum of Art. It's a conversation I had with the Blantons' Hannah Clem about Run the Code, which is this new groundbreaking digital art exhibit that explores how artists use algorithm and AI as creative tools. So stick around.
This is the year that City Council is supposed to be saving money, and Council is considering hiring an outside auditor to figure it out. So the question is, what's on the chopping block, and is the city actually going to be able to save money this year? Today on CityCast Austin, my guest explains. It's Monday, March 9th. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hello, I am here today with Amy Stansberry, editor-in-chief for the Austin Comment. What is up, Amy? Welcome back. It's good to see you.
Hey, good to see you.
So last week was a tough one for the city of Austin. And from your perspective, watchdog, eyes, boots on the ground, how well do you think Austin is handling the response to the West 6th Street shooting?
Yeah, I mean, what happened was so terrible. And admittedly, crime is not necessarily my beat, but it does seem like our first responders were there super, super quickly, which is good. And we're able to, I think they said EMS was on the scene in like less than a minute.
Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible. And, I think led to people's lives being saved. And it seems like the city's been trying to do a better job also communicating with the public when these kind of incidents happen. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's like moving along a little bit. There's like a lot of press conferences, a lot of, at least, maybe we didn't have all the information, but they were at least trying to be like, here's what we know.
Yeah.
Which is helpful and is something the city, I think, has struggled with a little bit in the past, is not being as communicative. But it seems like they did a little bit of a better job this time around on that.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree. So we just went through the midterm elections, and for Austin voters, it might have seemed like it was too soon to be back at the polls. The Proposition Q defeat still feels really recent. And in the wake of that failure, City Council said that they would be working on an efficiency assessment program. So what is the latest on that?
Yeah, I think we're going to be talking a lot about Prop Q today. It is lingering. It's pretty much influencing everything City Council is up to these days. But this comprehensive efficiency program, and sometimes this is called an audit. Basically, what City Council did is they passed an ordinance that kind of creating this sort of audit process. And so what's going to happen next is we have at the City of Austin someone called the City Auditor. It's a city department, and they're kind of like this special independent city department that already part of their job is going out, and every year they do a certain amount of it's confusing because everyone uses the word audit for different things, but
Yeah.
they kind of look at different city departments and very specific things and are like, how could Austin Resource Recovery's communication efforts be better? How could the animal center adopt out more animals? Like very specific problems, and they investigate that.
Like
So they
trimming
already
the fat kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And like a lot around process, less about money often, but more about just like how can the work be done better?
Well, even better. Yeah. Okay.
That's a lot of what the auditor's office already does. But this idea is to kind of expand on that and take a look more at each independent department, looking at all of Austin Resource Recovery, for example, and saying like, okay, with an eye towards efficiency, both in how can we save money and how can we provide service better, right? Or to do more for less, ideally, is the idea behind this. And so the city auditor is going to hire an independent outside consultant. They're going to spend the next 4 to 6 months picking that person. Then they're going to come back to council with that contract, which council will approve. And then the auditing process will start. And it'll take, the city auditor thinks it'll take like 5 years to get through the whole city.
Jesus, 5 years?
That's his estimate right now. He imagines like we do a certain number of departments each year. Then this will become a permanent program. So departments will be audited regularly now, kind of into perpetuity, to kind of keep up with this cycle. And the city auditor said like, listen, sure, I could produce an audit for you in a year, but it'll just have nothing but kind of platitude non-recommendations. Like if you really want us to look into how things are working and do something serious, then we need time to like really deep dive into these departments, some of which are huge, have thousands of employees, et cetera.
Okay. So I want to make sure I'm understanding.
Yes.
The city auditor's department, whose job it is to audit the city, is getting a consultant to come in and audit, and that it's going to take 5 years. Is that correct?
Yes. And a big reason, so this outside consultant thing is like always a question mark, right? There's like 2 lines of thinking here, right? One is, and what I think has been pushed upon the city quite a bit, is we want someone independent. We don't want someone from within the city who's a city employee to look at this, because they might have to make hard recommendations. And we want someone that doesn't have a stake in the game, right? That's like the one argument. However, argument 2 is, why do we have to keep paying all of these fancy outside consultants who know nothing about our community to come in and tell us how to run a city? So those are the competing narratives there. And you could hear the council members really debating this on the dais. They did in the end, decide to have an outside consultant, but they did write some things in to the proposed scope of work that said that consultant should be really speaking with city employees, relying on their expertise, going to them with any recommendations to see if they have all their ideas as well. So they're trying to kind of strike a balance, I think, between having someone that feels outside the city and independent, but also that might be able to bring in some local expertise, but it's a tricky thing. And of course, there's the money.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. Prop Q was about council spending too much money. And now we're going to spend money on an audit to to figure out why we spend so much money. It feels a little counterintuitive, right?
Correct. Yes. And I mean, I think like in some ways, like council's in a hard place with this because,
for sure.
When Prop Q failed, a lot of people in the public were like, we want an audit. Like that really bubbled to the top. And so I think council feels like they need to have an audit, at least to, 1, hopefully find savings. 2, if that doesn't happen, at least prove to the public that they did their due diligence. At least to establish trust, And maybe that's worth the money to just establish that trust. And the big question mark is, as of right now, we don't know what that contract will cost. Oof. So in 6 months, when the auditor comes back, goes through all the candidates, looks through all the bids, they'll go back to council and council will be able to say yes or no. So there's a chance, that council's
it'll
like,
be too much money.
It's too much money. And the answer is no. But we kind of have to wait and see on that. Yeah, we're starting the process and we're going to kind of see where it goes.
So I thought that you said that it's going to become a program. So am I understanding you that if it's approved, they will hire a consultant to come in, take 5 years to do this audit, and then that will result in maybe a program that happens more often?
Yeah, it seems like, kind of written into the resolution or the ordinance is that each city department will be audited at most every 3 years, but maybe more like every 5. They're kind of thinking that's a better cadence so that there's time for them to implement the recommendations,
Okay.
before it comes back around. So that will be kind of a regular cadence, is that they'll be audited into the future.
That's a really good clarification, because you're saying that 5 years isn't just for them to figure out what's happening. It's for them to be audited and implement changes that are, so it's a full process that happens within that 5 years. It's not just them gathering information.
Oh, no. Yeah. So the idea is like the first city department.
For some reason, I thought it was just 5 years to gather information. I was like, what are they doing? This makes more sense.
But the idea is that the city is so big, right? We have a $6 billion budget. We have all these big programs. So the idea, though, is that the auditor would start with, a few city departments. And those city departments, within that year, they're going to be audited, get their recommendations, and they'll be able to hit the ground running.
Love it. Okay.
And then some of the next ones, then they'll just keep adding in, then the next year they'll focus on another group.
That's important. Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of the idea. And also, like, the big elephant in the room here as to like why also I think city council is doing this is because there's a push to put a very similar initiative to this on a future election.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is like another driving force. Like councils, I think felt the need to sort of I think they're trying to, preempt this a little bit.
I mean, yeah, let's get into it.
So there's an outside group. So Save Austin Now, people might have heard of.
Yes.
Is like a political action committee. And they're collecting the signatures like right now. I think they're pretty close to try and put something on the ballot to force the city of Austin to have these efficiency audits.
Oh.
So, and their program is like slightly different, but similar in a lot of ways. So I think like that's the other big piece of why the city council felt compelled to really work on this efficiency audit program, because I think they preferred their program to Save Austin Now's proposal. And they're trying to show the public they're doing something on this, but not quite adopting the full Save Austin Now proposal. But it might come before voters anyway. So that'll be something to stay tuned on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, so there is a chance if the city auditor comes to, I guess, is there a chance that if the city auditor comes back with a recommendation for this consultant and it's just like ridiculous and it's too expensive, do you think that there's a chance they will adopt the Save Austin Now option?
Well, here's the thing. The city doesn't have a choice. If the Save Austin Now group gets all the signatures, it'll go on the ballot, and then us as voters will decide if we want it. I think that city council is just trying to prove, though, like, I think they're just trying to strengthen their argument. I think, to say, like, why as voters would we approve this other thing when we've already shown you we're starting on a process, we're being diligent, we're doing it. And basically, the two proposals are very similar. They both call for audits. The main differences are the Save Austin Now proposal wants to put it in our city charter, which is like our city constitution.
Oh, shit.
Which makes it more permanent. The city council version is an ordinance, which is slightly less permanent, but also more easy to adapt and change and edit if we need to as we can go through this process. So the mayor's been like, I want a program that we can change as we learn from it. But the Save Austin Now proposal is more set in stone forever as part of the ordinance. And another thing with the Save Austin Now proposal is they've written into their proposal that the auditor, also an outside consultant, would have to be chosen, but they have to find enough savings to cover their fee.
Wow.
Which sounds nice, but some city staff expressed concern about that kind of creates a bad incentive for that consultant to just recommend kind of anything to just like cover their their costs. But so we're kind of waiting. It seems like Save Austin Now is very close to having the signatures they need to put this on the ballot. The city clerk will then have to verify it, and then we'll know if this is something we'll vote on. So then we'll have to decide as voters, like, do we like what the mayor and council has already started working on, or do we want this other thing?
Then we have to vote on.
Then we have to make a choice. Yeah. And I'm sure I will come back on here and talk about it then.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy that something that will already be in process and then will have to be voted on in November possibly and throw all of that shit out. Like,
right.
There's a possibility that all of this work that will be happening this year leading up to November will be thrown out if the constituents vote. Right?
That's true.
I mean, it's a possibility.
True. That's definitely a possibility. And I think that's kind of what the mayor is trying to prevent, is to be like, look, we're doing something, like our proposal better. But we'll see what happens.
Wow. Wow. Crazy. That's crazy.
Hey y'all, it's Eva Ruth. Austin news has really been keeping me busy lately, but the one thing that's helped me keep my cool is my Duer jeans. I'm not kidding, they're comfortable enough to sit on the floor of a packed press conference, and they look polished enough to meet up for dinner downtown when the work is done. They're truly high-quality denim. Plus, these jeans are antimicrobial, and they're made from these Coolmax fibers that help regulate your temperature, literally keeping you cool. Duer's denim and lifestyle apparel is made for us to move freely without sacrificing comfort or style. So if you don't have your own pair of Duers yet, now is the time. Check out shopduer.com/CCAustin and you'll get 15% off of your first order. That's shopduer.com/CCAustin.
Hey y'all, so you may have noticed it's warming up outside and pretty soon it'll be time to run the AC. And if you're like me, you are not looking forward to that summertime energy bill. Well, why not start thinking about how to make your home more energy efficient right now? Window Nation can replace your old or builder grade windows with custom built, high quality windows at a great price. And right now, the more you buy, the more savings you can enjoy, like up to 50% off all window styles. And in case you've forgotten, they have over 1,500 styles and colors to choose from. And if 50% is just not enough to convince you, they have finance options, including $0 down and payments as little as $199 a month. Window Nation has a 96% customer satisfaction rating, and there's a lifetime warranty on all of their windows. So you can relax knowing your home is protected far into the future. So schedule a fast, free estimate now at windownation.com. Hey y'all, I have to tell you about this new exhibit at the Blanton Museum of Art. It brings together some of today's most renowned digital artists. It's called Run the Code. And this unique immersive art experience is a collaboration between the Blanton and the Toma Foundation. Y'all, this is the first exhibition of its kind at the Blanton, and it's exclusively dedicated to digital art. It complements the museum's vast, thought-provoking collection, and it vibes with Austin's robust tech community and its role as one of the fastest growing tech hubs in the U.S. Plus, visitors can directly engage with several of the works. The Blanton is the only current venue in the world for Run the Code. The exhibition is currently not scheduled to travel anywhere else. So make sure you check it out. Run the Code is on display at the Blanton from March 8th through August 2nd. You can find more information and tickets at blanton.org. In other spending news, Council is gearing up for our bond election in November. Do we have to have this bond election right now? And where are we in the process?
You know, I almost would think of some of what Council is doing right now as it's tied to this. All of this is like under this umbrella of trying to be more efficient. So,
okay, fair.
Basically what happened was the city had started the process of thinking about putting a bond on the ballot in November 2026, back before Prop Q, well before Prop Q even got put on the ballot. And also just a reminder of the difference. A bond election funds like big projects like a new park, a new pool, affordable housing. The Prop Q is a tax rate election, which just funded like the day-to-day operations of the city. So like parks maintenance workers to work at said parks, right? Bond elections tend to be a little bit more popular because they fund these specific projects, most of which are like exciting and pretty and the community likes them. but they both come with the tax increase. And so it's not clear right now, especially after the failure of Prop Q, if Austin voters would go for that, right? That is a bit of, so council had kind of already started this process. They had community members, they have like a election advisory task force looking into what kind of projects might be funded with a potential bond. That process was already undergoing. Then we have Prop Q. It fails. I think it makes city council kind of turn back and look at themselves and say, okay, we need to do things differently. We need to show the voters that we have financial discipline. We need to establish trust. Some council members seem weary of putting that bond on the ballot at all in November.
Okay.
Some still seem like they support it. It's unclear. But either way, it seems like one thing they definitely want to do, and what they just passed last month, is create this tree or framework to really be public with the voters around, like, if we decide to put a bond on the ballot in any year, these are the things it must do. Right? This is like the process we're going to follow. And that includes saying things like, we're going to start working on it a year and a half in advance. So there's plenty of time for public input and for us to design the projects and think about it. We're going to make sure that we've already spent down some of our other bond programs, so we don't have like a backlog of other projects waiting in the queue. We're going to prioritize projects that decrease the city's operating cost and don't add to our city's operating costs, right? Since we know that's a problem. So they kind of just wanted, what they just did is they passed this like framework, and what they're using it now as kind of, as this task force looks at making recommendations, deciding what they think should be on a bond in 2026, they'll pass that stuff to council in May. That's when the report is due. And council will use this new framework that they developed to judge that and decide whether or not to put something on the ballot. So that's kind of the idea, is a little bit just trying to like strengthen the process so that they can show voters, like, we don't know if they're going to decide to put it on the ballot or not. But either way, they kind of want to be able to show, like, these are the guidelines we're using to do this, so people understand where we're coming from. It's not just like out of left field or whatever.
Intention. Yeah.
There's an intention behind it. Exactly.
Yeah. Which is, they need right now, because I think that, especially after Prop Q, I think that a lot of people feel like the city is just willy-nilly, like spending money. Yeah. That's smart.
And so they're trying. So it's both, it's like, it's in part them actually doing things that are improving their financial discipline, and in part just trying to show the public and be more transparent that, like, they do have a process for these things, right? They're kind of doing both at the same time.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'm going to change the subject just a little. Another result of Prop Q's failure is that the city needs to tighten its belt, right? Well, I guess we're still talking about efficiency and spending.
Always. That's all we're going to talk about all year.
That's all we're talking about. That's it. Money, efficiency, spending.
Money. It's all about money right now.
All about money. So the city has to tighten its belt a little bit. And one area where everybody's kind of expecting these cuts to happen is in social services, contracts for next year. Do we know what officials are deciding to cut and how they're making the decisions of what to cut?
We do not know what they are cutting yet, but we are starting to learn how. So basically, what the city manager has already said is he expects that he's going to have to make about $17 million in cuts to social service contracts next year.
Jesus.
And also, like, when we talk about social service contracts, that's money that the city gives to nonprofits, usually for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
And usually the vast majority is for homelessness spending. So operating our city's shelters, different support programs, also things like after school programs for kids, food pantries, like all that kind of stuff, public health related programs.
People-centered stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the city manager said he thinks that these cuts are coming. So what city council has asked for is, okay, how can we be as involved in this process as possible and try and structure this to minimize cuts, figure out other ways to fund some of these programs, figure out if there's any opportunity that some of these programs could be combined to save money for the city, but not to result in as big of a loss of service. So that is what they just passed at a recent meeting too, is they directed the city manager to kind of create a rubric or a tool to assess and prioritize which services should be funded, partially funded, or eliminated, and really asking the city manager to prioritize life-saving social service contracts, so things focused on housing or food, focusing on ones that might save another city department money. So Some of our homelessness programs, might prevent a police officer from having to respond, therefore freeing up police officer times. Now, that's very hard to measure, but, they're trying to prioritize those things, as well as other programs that have been cut by, experience other cuts from federal or state. But it's not going to be easy at all. A lot of these programs really rely on the city of Austin. And that's definitely going to be, I think, the big topic of conversation this budget cycle. That budget won't be approved until the summer. The city is trying to do this as early as possible, so there's time to really plan.
That feels rough. It feels harsh. You know what I mean?
It's really rough. And some council members, Councilmember Alter at one of the meetings was like, why are we balancing our budget on the backs of these programs?
Exactly.
Why are they getting the most cuts? So it is not, a done deal, but it does seem like that's the direction things are heading. Some city staff have looked around and they did a presentation kind of comparing how the city of Austin funds social services compared to other cities.
Yeah.
And we spend as a city way more money than many other comparable cities. Other cities get a lot more fundings from grants or from the county, other partners.
Really? Okay.
Yes. But the county is not jumping up and down being like, we'll take over all these programs. They already also are dealing with their own fiscal difficulties. And someone at the city also came up and spoke to council and they were saying, hey, the reason we look like this and we look different than other cities, it's because we chose to. That was a value we have as a city, as we decided we want to invest in social services and not just policing, right?
We wanted to
invest in the issues, the downstream, we upstream. We wanted to help improve people's lives as opposed to just But now
here we are.
So
here we are.
That is going to be the tough.
That's heavy.
Yes, the tough conversations that are coming up for sure.
I don't envy our council members. This feels like a Herculean task. I mean, it feels like there's no winning here. Even if you do cut all of these social services and you get that $17 million, the city still loses. You know what I mean?
Of course.
We still lose.
And that's why, we're looking at the efficiency. We're looking at trying to look at these contracts early.
Yeah.
Could we talk to the county? Could we figure out other funds? Could we find a private philanthropist to help come in and rally the community around? Could we find savings? I think City Council is still hoping that as we do the efficiency audit process, if savings come up there, that money could go into social services.
Social services,
That's a potential. But it does feel unlikely that those savings will be found before the next budget, right? It's a little bit of a longer term project. So that is part of, and we'll have to see, right? We don't know, but that's why I think council is really trying to work on some of these efficiency measures is they want to find the savings so we can fund some of these other programs.
Wow. Oh, it's going to be a tough year.
It's not gone are the days, where it was just we have, the city was flush and they could just approve any program, right? For many years, it was just, if the funding is available, it was way easier.
Yeah. And that's tough on a city that's growing as fast as we are, too. I mean, we have no shortage of people in the city that need help.
Correct.
And that doesn't seem to be changing. So
more people than ever need help. And so, other levels of government are not stepping in, right? So that's the tricky part.
Wow.
So if you're interested in these things, to really try and stay engaged, contact your council members. The process is going to continue to develop. And so make sure that you're telling the council what you want them to be doing throughout this. They need to hear that.
Yeah, you need to engage now because if you want to have any say on the budget, you got to start now.
Yeah, you got to tell the council what you think about how this process is going so far because they're trying to be responsive, I think, to the public. And so you need to tell them what you're thinking.
And Amy, thank you for being here. You're the only person I know that can make this stuff interesting and fun. You really are. Just thanks.
Well, thanks for chatting. It's really important. So
Yeah, it is important. Thank you so much.
And listener, don't go anywhere. In just a second, there's a sponsored segment by the Blanton Museum, which is me chatting with Hannah Clem, the curator of modern and contemporary art and the organizer of the exhibit Run the Code, which is a collaboration with the Carl and Marilyn Thoma Foundation. Run the Code is running March 8th through August 2nd. Hey, it's executive producer Eva Ruth here with Hannah Klim, who is the curator for the exhibition Run the Code at the Blanton Museum. Hey, Hannah.
Hi.
So, okay, Run the Code sounds really different from what I typically consider to be art. So for someone who maybe doesn't usually think of algorithms as art, what is this show and why is it such a big deal for the Blanton?
Yeah, I know. I think especially when you say it that way, algorithms as art, it sounds like a very foreign concept. But I think one of the things that is so exciting and interesting to me about working with digital art, and in this case, algorithmic and even AI art, is that while it's totally new, because often it's cutting edge technology. And so I think with each new technological innovation, artists learn how to use it to express creativity, kind of human consciousness, all these things that we are so drawn to, I think, within the world of visual imagination, but they are able to use these incredible technologies in new ways. And I think that they do a really beautiful job in that they can create continuity with what we think of as art objects while employing mediums and technologies that are completely cutting edge.
Wow. Many of us, experience algorithms kind of passively as these like invisible forces that are running our news feeds and our navigation apps and social media. And this show kind of flips that idea. So how are these artists actively using algorithms and data as creative materials?
I think the simplest way to put it, which is both truly simple and deeply complex, is that they're using data as a pigment. Their paint, their clay, their marble is actually data sets. And really, algorithms are just the modes of instruction that computers and or people, kind of analog algorithms, we're talking about computational algorithms, computer algorithms, but they're just the instructions that are set for the device to do something. These artists are taking these algorithms and creating visualizations, and oftentimes they end up quite abstract. And I think one of the things that's so beautiful is when data becomes an artistic medium, when it becomes your paint, it also can become more apparent that algorithms have these kind of functions. And I think in this show, artists really showcase algorithms as this malleable, movable, flexible thing that can create.
I love that you can see kind of behind the scenes of how, what the map is that these algorithms are creating. And, one thing that really stood out to me in looking at this exhibition is just how immersive it really is. So are we looking at screens on walls? Is the entire wall a screen? What's the layout a little bit for people who are curious about that?
There's a lot of screens. Oftentimes the screens kind of, we try to hide some of the screen-esque qualities. They look kind of like paintings on walls, but they're all moving and in motion and kind of living, which I think is really, really exciting. But then we have curved LEDs. We're going to have full scale projections. We have works that you can interact with. So we have an amazing piece by the artist Camille Utterbeck where you actually dance. There's a dance floor and your movements are translated by the computer into an abstract painting that becomes projected onto the wall. And so you keep building this painting with your movement.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so fun. I just want to stand in front of that one for a good while and watch it move. That sounds so creative. This exhibition really seems to be a marriage of, tech and art, which are things that I feel like Austin is really proud of and always needs more art. This is the first exhibition at the Blanton that's dedicated exclusively to digital art, and it's the only place in the world where you can see this right now. So why does this show feel Austin-y to you, given the tech community and this identity that we have as one of the fastest growing tech hubs in the country?
I think that was one of the things that struck us the most about the Austin community, is we kind of thought that we really have such an incredible tech community, but also we have people who are really, I think, and I hope really willing participants in this as an art exhibit. So we decided to go the other way. All of the artworks were made in the 21st century, in the last 20 years, because we thought that the contemporary relevance and the type of technology that the artists were using would really speak to a community that maybe understands the back end more than, say, I do as an art historian, but hopefully then sees these data sets, these AI models being used in really interesting and different ways to genuinely create visual experiences, to create art objects. Like that's what they're doing with this work, is they're creating visual experiences for us to kind of contemplate the same things we always contemplate with art, of how we see the world and how we are creative human beings.
Yeah, we love to be cutting edge anything. So it's very fun. Hannah, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to see this exhibit myself. Again, check out blantonmuseum.org to learn more. Run the Code is going to be running March 8th through August 2nd, and we'll have that link for you in our show notes as well. So you're just a click away. And thank you so much for listening.
That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to Amy's work in our show notes. If you enjoyed the show, tell your friend that likes to go to council meetings. Rate our show, leave us a review, and of course, subscribe to our CityCast Austin newsletter. And if you really love us, and you like what we do, and you love being caught up on what's happening in the city, support us. Become a neighbor today at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.